Manager at Commerce7. I'm joined today with Kyle Bingham from Bingham Family Vineyards. And today we're going to be talking about subscription clubs, something that is new to Commerce7. And Kyle and the team of Bingham have been working on for a couple of months here. Kyle, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me here today.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Just to start off, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? My understanding is you're the manager at Bingham Family Vineyards.
Yes, sure. Yeah. So I am kind of a CFO type position, almost COO. I do all sorts of different things on the back end. A lot of what I do is build systems, equip people, and make sure different locations are running. So my goal is to essentially work myself out of a job, but there's always something going wrong. That's one of the fun things working with Commerce7 is we do have the ability to bring in some custom scripts here and there to help with really specific applications for us. For us, we are a multi-location Texas winery. So when it comes to software, it's somewhat difficult for us to find the right application. So we've got 200 acres of vineyard up close to Lubbock, Texas. So we're a high altitude desert region where most of your vineyards in Texas are grown. That's where we specialize in a lot of Spanish and Italians. We do Tempranillo, Giraldago, Carignan, Petit Verdot, and we do a lot of the Cab Sauv and Cab Francs as well. And then on the whites, we do some Albarinos and Vermentino and Trebbiano. We're always really pushing on the wine production side to really figure out what is going to excel well here in Texas and what's going to work well here. And then from there, we take our wine. So we are, our closest town 15 minutes away is 400 people, Meadow, Texas. So all of our retail are now going to be 6 hours away in DFW or Fredericksburg, which are going to be major tourist areas. And so that for us creates some unique challenges for compliance because we're treated as separate bonds, both federal and then on a state level, we have to track all that in inventory. But yeah, in the short, that's kind of what we're up to right now.
That's awesome. And so, you guys definitely have a direct consumer presence. Do you guys sell through any other channels, like 3-tier wholesale?
We have some minimal wholesale. The majority of what we sell is going to be fresh fruit, fresh juice, direct to other consumers. Then we've got our next market of bulk wines that we're selling out to other products. And then we've got our DTC brand as well, which probably consumes right now about 12-15% of our vineyard's fruit.
Gotcha. Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, today, super excited to talk about subscription clubs. For people that are listening in and might not know what that is, it's kind of a new feature on Commerce7. It's basically a user choice club, takes the members' experience a little further in allowing them to do a little more customization around the frequency of the shipments, processing dates, selection they get, right? Things like that. And so you guys have been, how long now have you guys been using the subscription clubs with Commerce7?
So we started trialing it about a year ago. We had at first we had a few concerns about how is this going to look? What is the customer going to think? It's kind of a little different from some of the traditional approaches. But yeah, we've been running it. We trialed it for about 3 months, and that's when we suddenly realized a lot of the strengths. And so we ended up all of our monthly clubs. We phased those out. We're starting to phase some of our traditional clubs. I could see us dropping it down to, at one point, we were up to about 38 clubs, and I could potentially see us dropping down to the subscription club plus 2 or 3 other clubs. And really, but because the subscription club gives so much control, the customer is getting what they want. And from the back end side, it's a whole lot easier to manage. So that's the exciting thing for us.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you're able to kind of consolidate a lot of the clubs you had now into the subscription club. Is that just because before you had a lot of clubs with different options and now you're just letting the consumer kind of pick their own options with the subscription?
Exactly. So with the subscription club, we run it similar to our monthly club. So we're going to give the customer a specific bottle every month. But unlike our monthly club, that customer, because they can go in and pick whatever they want, you kind of get the best of both worlds. For that customer that wants us to curate that list for them, they get that. And then for that customer who wants to pick through, they love that. They get to pick through, they get to find what they want. What we love to see also is when that customer jumps in to drop that bottle they don't like, then they have to pick between 3 or 4 other bottles to replace it with, and they end up picking two or three. So it becomes a very quick upsell online without a server actually working. It's a very simple touch point with the customer. They can jump on, switch bottles out, club runs 2 weeks later, and we have it. And that's another issue. Having 3 locations, we need to make sure our inventory is at every location. So once that club's run, we can run those reports and make sure that we've got that inventory at every location ready for that customer to pick it up.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. So it sounds like though, when people are removing bottles, they're adding more back, right, when they're swapping out. So you're kind of seeing the average order value go up with this club.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. And it sounds like you guys are using the option where each member gets a unique default package that's based off their purchase history. Is that correct?
So right now we still assign their package. So
Gotcha.
it works.
You said the default up front.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're going to get, it looks a little bit more like our monthly club. So they're going to get whatever that wine of the month is. But from an inventory standpoint, we've got a number of people that are not going to, they can switch stuff out really quickly.
Yeah.
So we don't actually have to fulfill that much. And it's no longer a monthly delivery. Sometimes we may run a package for 6 weeks and then realize we've signed new club members. We're only going to run that package for 5 weeks. And so we'll rotate some of the new stuff in and out a little bit faster. There's a 2-week lag time on it, but we still curate for them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But they get to go in and switch out.
They get to go to make changes to what you guys have presented them.
Yes, and that too, for people who aren't familiar, they don't get to pick anything on the menu. They have a selection that we present to replace them.
So you preset the alternative options for them.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. And so sounds like you're consolidating a lot of the older clubs into this club. So I'm guessing that with the subscription, you didn't start from scratch. You kind of transitioned some of the previous clubs over into this model. What was that transition like?
So we ended up starting from scratch. So we went from 32 clubs to 33 clubs, and we were like, let's just run this and see what happens. If it takes off, we'll let it.
Yeah.
And as soon as it took off, all of our monthly club, every time they complained about, I don't like my wine, we were like, hey, we will let you refund your bottle. We'll put you in the subscription club and you can pick your bottle. And so very quickly, we just started converting that monthly club into the subscription club. And then about 6 months into that, we realized we were going to drop the monthly club. So we just started emailing everyone, hey, we are going to end your monthly club. You still get your perks, but shipments will stop in 6 months. So we had a 6-month phase out period. We didn't necessarily drop the customer. And then we put a pretty intensive phone campaign calling. About 3 months into that, then we start calling people who didn't make the transition. And a lot of these people, when we called them and talked about the added perks of the subscription club, it's an easy sale. So it was a bit of work on the transition, but we just set a 6-month goal. The few people that didn't transition, they're still club members. They still get perks, but they don't get shipments. And so it's kind of a dead club that we can still take care of that customer, but we don't have to plan for it anymore.
Gotcha. That's pretty interesting though. Starting out, anytime somebody had kind of an issue or an inquiry with the traditional club, you kind of use it as an opportunity to push them into the new subscription.
Yeah. And that was the most effective tool, because the customer comes in with a complaint, they left with more options and a happier customer.
Makes sense. What's it like managing the fulfillment for this subscription? You guys find that it's easier than what you were doing before with the traditional club?
Yes, it was a little bit of a change of how we manage it. And because of that rolling 2-week window, um, we we have a much more fluid inventory, and we do have to check in weekly as we start seeing stuff sell out. Once we get close to that sellout date, we make sure we get that bottle out of the selection,
Mhm.
so that we still have it in stock for 2 weeks. But it's much easier than a set, wine of the month. I need X number of bottles for each club every month. So we found once we got used to it, we find it be much easier.
Gotcha. That makes sense. How about with customer inquiries? I know, wineries out there when they run their clubs, they get a lot of people reaching out wanting to make changes or change the card on file, the ship to address. Do you guys find it's about the same with the subscription versus the traditional? Is it a bit easier, a bit harder?
With your older generation, I think it's about the same. They're still
Mhm.
going to call in. We're going to jump in the back end. We're going to make those corrections for them. For the younger generation, they're jumping online and getting that done. I think a lot of them are doing that without our help, just like they
Mm.
could jump onto Amazon or something like that. And so I think with people who understand how subscriptions work and how to get online and do that, it it,
Mhm.
it takes a lot of that customer service load off of what we're doing.
Gotcha. So it makes it a bit easier for you guys
Yeah.
there. Awesome. And so you guys still though, so you have the subscription club, you're consolidating a lot of the clubs into it. You still have the traditional clubs though, correct? You still have
We're
some
still
traditional options?
Yes, we're still running the traditional options.
Yeah.
But there is thought of phasing most of those out. So we do twice a year.
Hmm.
We don't do the big pickup parties. And so for a winery that does the big pickup parties, they may be happy to run both that
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 times a year pickup and then also the subscription club. Um, we find the subscription club is easier to sell,
Hmm.
because if I sell someone 12 bottles um, with a 10% discount twice a year, there's a bit of sticker shock when they see that 6 bottle pack. But if
Hmm.
I sell them a bottle a month with a 10% discount, they don't have that sticker shock.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we see that as huge. They'll look at both clubs and they'll pick the subscription club because it's cheaper. They
Yeah.
have a little more element of control, um, and it just makes them more comfortable for their budget.
Hmm.
And they know that they can switch the subscription. We allow them to go up to 1 to 2 bottles a month. They can flex how much they get,
Hmm.
and they're not worried about buying too much wine.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So is it kind of like a similar lifetime value, except that it's from the customer's perspective, the pricing is more broken up across the year?
Um, yes,
Mm.
very similar. The discount's not as deep,
Yeah.
because the if you're buying 3 cases twice a year and you come in and pick them up, that's still the easiest customer to take care of.
Right.
So those customers still get the best discount.
Hmm.
But the subscription club is close behind. It's not too difficult.
Mm. Gotcha. Have you guys run into any issues with the subscriptions?
I mean, at this point, I would. There's really no major issues.
Hmm.
It really comes down to what our goals at the winery and how we want to push different products.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, I think last time we talked, you mentioned that subscription clubs might not be for every winery based off the goals. Is that kind of still the case?
Yeah, I think some wineries may prefer if they're going to have 2 big pickup parties a year and they're centered around that.
Hmm.
I think that they may not want to switch to the subscription club.
Mm.
For us, we are just as happy to try to build consistent traffic month in, week out.
Hmm.
And so that's why we'll do the club dinners, but we don't do the big pickup parties. So it's a little bit different mindset. So I think it's going to come down to how the winery chooses to do that.
Gotcha. Based off kind of how their business model there.
Yeah, their business model, their branding, their clientele, all those things are going to come
Mm.
into play.
Do you guys do you see any difference in I guess the ratio of online versus tasting room signups for the subscription versus the traditional, or is it more or less the same?
Um, from a breakdown perspective, we still see most of our signups are still in-house.
Hmm.
It's going to be it's a server is going to do that tasting. It's that we're going to talk about the wine, and they're going to make that sign up that club member.
Yeah.
Most of our online signups are of a friend of a friend versus online marketing. So we don't really see a lot of online marketing return club members.
Gotcha. But the friend of the friend there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, someone comes in, they have a great time, and they go back and tell all their friends, hey, we've got a really good wine, get your discount here type thing. So essentially you're still getting that personal touch point. You just have that super customer going out there doing your job for you.
Makes sense. So most of it's coming from the tasting room. How, I guess, how do you guys in the tasting room, or how do you train the staff to kind of bring up the two options there? Because they seem pretty different. Is it just kind of like a case by case basis? You read the customer bid and determine, what might be the better pitch, or do you give them both options up front?
So a little bit of both. We give them two options. We give them the twice a year and the subscription club.
Yeah.
And then you kind of read where their interest lies. And once they start, once they see interest in one or the other, then we start talking about all the details about the twice a year pickup or the subscription club, instead of presenting every, at this point, I think we're still at 16 clubs. We don't present 16 clubs. We present two options and then go down one rabbit trail or the other, to try to work on that. We have a lot of people come in asking, once they've had a good experience and we talk about the club, it's generally the customer's like, okay, I love your wine, I want the discount, tell me about the club. So a lot of us comes to referring to the club and the perks throughout the experience, and then at the end, inviting them to join the club versus trying to make the sale.
Gotcha. Awesome. Any kind of tips or recommendations for wineries that are considering this, or anything that maybe we haven't gone over that would be important to highlight?
I mean, so after we tried the subscription club, it's so easy to trial it. I don't see why you shouldn't at least run a 6-month trial on it. I mean, it's like anything, make your plan, figure out your inventory. How are you going to manage that? How's that going to look? But it's like anything else. You're not going to know if it's going to work for you. But with our experience with the subscription club, especially your urban wineries, there's no reason not to be doing this as an urban winery. Maybe your larger locations that are outside of town, where you're more of a destination winery, then maybe that's a little more of a conversation you'd have.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, thanks for all the insight, Kyle. Really appreciate it. Yeah, any kind of closing thoughts there, or?
I think that's all for now.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Kyle.
Yeah. Absolutely.